Things like baby massage. And then you learn how, okay, so with that in mind, you can have a baby on your back. You know there are other ways you can have a kid, or as a woman can have a kid. Squatting is actually a really effective means because it's like, boom, open up the pelvis, push the kid out. You can have, they actually have this partner-assisted way. It's like if I had an envelope like the stage here, I could kind of hook underneath my wife's arms and kind of elevate her so it pulls weight off the pelvis and it relaxes. And then you got crazy shit like the old man drying his balls in the Gold's Gym locker, like the captain. Put your balls away, man. But this is a legitimate, like the lunge. Put foot on seat, chair, toes pointed back. Lean back towards the chair. Be careful with your balance. Look off to the side. Push the kid out. They had a whole sheet of this stuff, of ways other alternative ways you could have a kid. Things I had no idea existed because I didn't grow up wanting to have kids. I didn't not want to have kids, but you know, whereas my wife was happy to tell you like she was planning baby names and talking about all the things she would do and this and that and blah, 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 blah. So, old man drying his balls, right there. So then there was the existential crisis. There's this idea of like before kid and after kid that I've read about before, but I experienced firsthand. So prior to having my kid, I decided I was going to be the white Usain Bolt because this is the last bit of time in my life I was going to have to try to, I don't know, do something with it, right? Like this idea that you have a kid and then all of a sudden you're fully in service of your kid. And you have no hobbies or anything else after that. That's not entirely true. But it is what ends up happening. This feeling of, I got to do something before I am now a dad. So I'm pulling my hair out about this. It's like, all right, I'm going to be the white Usain Bolt, and I'm doing sprint training, and it's a lot of fun. Or I'm going to, what else did I want to be? I was going to be the best rock climber there ever was. Like, it's just you're grasping at straws, and this notion of trying to integrate an identity of soon to be a father with the identity of yourself as just a married guy or even a single guy. And I went through a little bit of that kind of getting married, but my wife and I had already owned a house. Like, we had a mortgage together, so it was an easier integration getting married. Having a kid, I was pulling my damn hair out about this stuff. It was just like, oh, what is this going to be? And I talked to all my clients who are fathers about this, and they all had kind of the hair pulling out experience as well, this notion of, holy crap, what is this going to look like? There's just no prior evidence and experience that you can have. You can be told. It's a bit like Russian literature, and I forget who I got this line from. You can read it and understand it, but you cannot comprehend it unless you have grown up as a Russian. And it's any culture, right? Anytime you learn a culture, you're learning from a secondhand experience. And it's almost like fatherhood and parenting is a culture that you can look at and watch and go, I think I understand that. Okay, he looks really tired, and there's a screaming kid, and wow, that doesn't look like a lot of fun, right? But then you get immersed in it. But you go through this phase in the middle where it's like the transition. You're going, I have no idea what this is all going to be about, and it scares me. You're going through this fog of war. Now the birth. So 38 weeks. There's my wife. There I am. Oh. Our kid was due September 25th of 2013. And as I had noted, we had decided we were going to use the birthing center, and it was by a country mile the best medical care we've ever had. Just from the environment to the time spent with us to the concerns. Even for me as a father who's just there as like support role, we were really, really happy with that. But when I say birthing center, what does that make you think? Maybe something like a grass hut. So 21 Convention 2010, Doug's up here being Doug. Hold on. So there I am in the ER, and some granola head decides they're going to have their baby in their living room, and it comes out with the umbilical cord around their neck, and they drop it in my lap. That's confirmation bias. Of course they're going to drop it in your lap. You're the emergency room physician. I didn't take my kid to the emergency room after I was done and say, hey, doc, look at my great-looking kid. Having said that, it's actually, some people think kind of grass hut, you're going to squat in a hole and push your kid out. At our birthing center, all the midwives have master's degrees in nursing science and extra training in that. And this was actually the room we had birth in, or gave birth in. And around the room, there are actually hooks on the walls because they can provide medical procedures based on how the birth is going up to some level. And then a mile down the road is the hospital. They set them up in proximity to those. You know, it's sort of like, it's an argument that often gets leveled, and it's totally spurious, which is, what happens if they can't do what they need to be done? They call someone who can do it. What happens if you need brain surgery and you're at your family care physician? They call a brain surgeon. You know, it's a ridiculous argument that, oh, well, you realize you're outside of your depth and you call someone who knows. So we have this kind of wonderful room, and a week passes, September 25th is gone, it's all of a sudden October 2nd, and my wife is getting really, really infuriated, and she smacks me at 5 o'clock in the morning and goes, "Today's the day." I go, "Okay." Now, this is important because I asked the midwives, like, okay, so what's early labor and then active labor look like? And they just sort of go like, oh, you'll know. Give me something. I like facts, I like figures, I like poses. So Sarah's getting these contractions, she's getting these contractions, and we're walking around the neighborhood, and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Finally, we go into the midwives that afternoon, and they sort of like lay on the table, and they go, "Oh, you're really effaced, but you're not really dilated." So here's an important kind of point of distinction. At the cervix, what's happening is there's this mucosal plug that is, when they talk about dilation and being effaced, what's happening is your kid's head is kind of hitting the top of the cervix and slowly widening the space. I'm going to talk all about the vagina later, guys, don't you worry. Your kid hits the space, and it starts to widen the gap, and so you can be effaced and dropping down below this certain point, but the mucosal plug has to give up the ghost. It has to break, it'll either break slowly, or if you see it in the movies where it's like, BAM! And it's a pickle jar, and all of this fluid everywhere, and you're swimming in it, it's just disgusting. It doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes it could just be a slow rip and a slow drip. So my kid's just waiting to come out. She's trying to get out, and she's not really effaced, or she's very effaced and not really dilated. And so they're like, "Come back later, you're progressing, it's fine." And the best part about it is our midwife, East German, 5 kids, she's great. Earlier in the pregnancy, she's telling us about, "You're pregnant, that's fine, keep doing everything you'd rather be doing." She tells us a story about how this one girl comes into her trying to get a doctor's note so she can park closer at UT, like a sick note. And her response was, "You are pregnant, you're not sick, you can walk." Like this idea that somehow the female anatomy and that human beings on the balance haven't dealt with this, that haven't dealt with pregnancy and have to do stuff with it while pregnant is just absurd. Very kind of Western society. If there's now having said that, we have friends who had twins and she was bedridden by like 20 weeks. So there are certain circumstances where that has to happen. But my wife didn't have that problem. So she was still training and teaching and all that other fun stuff. So we get there, and the nurse practitioner's like, you're fine. Go home. You know, try and sleep a little bit because this is going to be coming. So about 9:30, my wife starts doing this. So if the midwife had told me active labor looks like NBA players in the fourth quarter trying to catch their breath, because you can't talk, you can't think, it's the most unimaginable pain, that would have been helpful. So there's a little tip. There's a little tip for you. First of all, active labor is not like, the most painful portion is not the pushing, according to every single one of my clients I've talked to about this. It's not the pushing, it's the contractions of your body trying to widen this space to get ready to shove this kid out. So there we are there, and we've got the active breathing, and we show up. And here's why I don't have a mid-husband. Does it hurt? Can I get you a beer or something? Because we don't know, and we can't relate directly. I mean, we can know kind of in an academic sense and having been through it and so on and so forth. But their care and their touch and having had kids and sort of going through the process. We get there at about, let me see where I am. Yeah, okay. So we get there at about 9 o'clock in the evening, and we've got that beautiful tub. My wife's trying to find a comfortable position. Again, she's like on the bed. She eventually settles to sitting on the toilet with her head against the wall because the porcelain's cold. She'll get up, she'd breathe through these contractions, sit back down, and lay there. So what's happening is the mucosal plug is slowly ripping as the contractions are coming. I, meanwhile, are trying to sleep. And she's totally harshing my vibe, trying to get a nap. To which she goes like, I cannot believe you tried to sleep. I go, what else was I going to do? You didn't want me around. She wasn't yelling at me or anything. She's just like, you can't help, right? What I'm going to do, like help her contract that muscle. You can't help. So I'm lying there on the bed trying to sleep because I know at some point I'm going to be, my marginal utility is rising with every minute. But in that moment in time, I was totally not useful. So I'm trying to sleep. So I'm effectively like Grand Haven father here. Does it hurt? Okay, I can. So eventually, things are progressing. About 2:30 in the morning, they always say when it feels like, they tell your wife, when it feels like you cannot go any further, that you've suffered so long, that's when the good stuff's about to begin. So my wife's like, God, I need a shot. I can't take it anymore. So I go and I get the nurse. And she comes in and she goes, well, we need to check, well, we need to check. And comes in and proceeds to lay my wife back and go to check her. And in that moment, bam, everything opens up. Finally, it gives up the ghost, and she screams to the nurse, this baby's coming now. So nurse kind of wanders in. She goes, get the cart, it's coming now. So she runs off.